The sun beat mercilessly down on Ouagadougou, casting sharp shadows across the sand-dusted streets of the capital. Inside a concrete interrogation cell within Camp Sangul La Mizana, a woman sat hunched under flickering fluorescent light, her face bloodied but defiant. Her name was Evelyn Moore. To the outside world, she was a cultural attaché at the U.S. Embassy. To the junta under President Ibrahim Traoré, she was a captured CIA operative accused of inciting rebellion in the Sahel. Captain Coulibaly slammed his fist on the steel table between them. "You think we don't know what you've done? You think your embassy badge will save you now?" Evelyn's lips curved into a grim smile. "I think you don't know what you're dealing with, Captain." The tension crackled like static in the stale air. A bead of sweat rolled down Coulibaly's temple as he stared at her. There was something about this American, this sharp, calculating woman with bruises on her face and calm in her eyes, that made him hesitate. He wasn't sure if it was arrogance or certainty. Either way, it unsettled him. "Ibrahim Traoré himself has ordered your debriefing," Coulibaly hissed, his voice low. "You're not going anywhere until you tell us who the contact in the northern province is, the one meeting with MPA insurgents." "I don't give up my friends," Evelyn replied flatly. "They're not your friends, they're war criminals." "Then we have something in common." Outside, soldiers paced with rifles slung across their backs, the murmur of political tension echoing throughout the capital. Burkina Faso was a nation teetering on the edge of implosion. Coup after coup, international embargoes, Russian paramilitary consultants working behind the scenes, and now, this, the presence of a captured American spy, was both an opportunity and a disaster. It depended on who got to her first. Meanwhile, inside the presidential palace, President Ibrahim Traoré stood before an intelligence screen, watching live CCTV footage of Evelyn's cell. His face was carved in granite, young for a ruler, but already hardened by war and betrayal. Beside him, his Minister of Interior, Fatoumata Diallo, spoke cautiously. "She will not break under pressure, Mon President. Americans train for capture scenarios. If we're not careful, this could spiral into a diplomatic war." Traoré didn't take his eyes off the screen. "What if that's the point? What if she wants to be captured?" Fatoumata stiffened. "You think she orchestrated her own arrest? She was caught with encrypted data drives, burner phones, military coordinates, and satellite recon footage of our eastern bases." Traoré replied. "Either she's incompetent, which I don't believe, or she wanted us to catch her." A silence followed. "I want to speak with her myself," he said finally. Back in the cell, Evelyn was nursing a broken rib and a cut across her temple. She'd endured hours of questioning, silence, and the occasional threat of enhanced interrogation, but it hadn't come to that yet. She was playing a dangerous game, she knew that. But sometimes when the mission changes, you change with it. The door clanked open and two elite guards entered, weapons drawn. Behind them stepped in the man himself, President Ibrahim Traoré, the youngest head of state in Africa, revolutionary leader, former special forces commander, and ruthless tactician. Evelyn straightened instinctively on guard. "I expected a man with more subtlety," she said, meeting his gaze. "I expected a spy with less sarcasm." Traoré replied. He waved off the guards. "Leave us." "But Mr. President," I said, "leave us." When the door sealed behind them, silence fell. The president walked slowly around the room, eyes locked on hers. "You've come a long way to die in a concrete hole, Miss Moore," he said. "Why, you tell me," she replied coolly. "You seem to know everything." He smiled without humor. "You were gathering intelligence on our Russian alliances, weren't you?" "No," she said. "You lie well. I wasn't gathering intelligence, I was planting it." That made him pause. He tilted his head, interest piqued. "You came here to mislead us." "No," she said. "I came here to warn you." That stopped him cold. "Warn me? There's a plot to assassinate you," Evelyn said flatly, "and it's not coming from the West." Traoré narrowed his eyes, skeptical but not dismissive. "Why should I believe a single word from your mouth?" "Because you already suspect it, because your inner circle is leaking, because this room is bugged and you know it." He remained still for a long time. Then who? She gave a half smile. Now, why would I give that up so easily? A long silence passed between them. I want to propose a deal, Evelyn said finally. I don't make deals with spies. Then make one with someone who can save your life. That was the moment the door burst open again, and gunfire rang out in the corridor beyond. Traoré instinctively ducked, drawing a sidearm. Evelyn didn't flinch. Guess I was right, she muttered. A grenade went off somewhere down the hall, and the lights flickered again. Traoré shouted into his comms, ordering a lockdown. Evelyn stood despite the pain in her ribs. I need access to your command center, she said, voice urgent. Right now. You're insane, he barked. No, she said, eyes blazing. I'm your only way out of this alive. Traoré hesitated just for a second, but then he tossed her a set of cuffs. You stay cuffed. One wrong move, I shoot you myself. Fair enough. They stepped out into chaos. Smoke, yelling, the pop of semi-automatics echoing through the base. Guards were already falling. Someone had infiltrated the perimeter. Evelyn scanned the attackers quickly. Not MPA, she muttered. These are elite. Foreign, possibly Wagner, no insignia, ex-spets, NAS formation. Traoré glanced at her. How do you know? I trained half their playbook. As they ran through the smoky corridors, heading toward the inner bunker, a body fell from above, riddled with bullets. Evelyn dove for the rifle, uncuffed herself with a hidden pin, and stood back. Back with Traoré. You better be telling the truth, he said, covering the left flank. I lied about a lot of things, she said, but not this. They fought through 3 more corridors before reaching the reinforced command room. Inside, Fatoumata was holding a pistol to a stunned colonel. He opened the gate. She snarled. Evelyn looked to Traoré. You asked who? There's your leak. Traoré's face was unreadable, but his eyes burned. I want answers, he growled at Evelyn, and I want immunity, she said, and an extraction. We'll talk about it if we live through this. They locked eyes. For the first time, there was a flicker of understanding. And neither of them noticed the red light blinking above. Someone was watching their every move. The command bunker was silent except for the rhythmic hum of emergency power and the distant boom of gunfire echoing through concrete. President Traoré stood behind the heavy steel doors, now bolted from inside, his sidearm still clenched. Evelyn Moore, now armed and no longer cuffed, paced beside the central control table. Her eyes scanned the glowing surveillance monitors, mapping the attackers' incursion. Section Charlie breached, she said, pointing to a screen showing masked assailants flooding the east wing. They've cut external comms. No one's getting in or out. Fatoumata Diallo's hand trembled as she aimed her pistol at the colonel kneeling on the floor. He opened the gate. I saw the override logs. He let them in. The colonel, bleeding from a gash on his forehead, shook his head violently. I was following protocol. Someone spoofed the security code. I swear. He's lying. Evelyn interrupted. That override had to be physical, from inside the building. Traoré's jaw clenched. Then it's worse than we thought. They're already embedded in my command. Outside the door, something crashed hard. The reinforced hinges groaned under pressure. Evelyn turned. We've got minutes, maybe less, before they breach. Traoré looked at her. What do they want? She stepped closer, dropping her voice. You, alive for now. He flinched. Why? Because you're a symbol of African defiance, and they need you to fall publicly. It's not just a coup, Ibrahim. It's a narrative war. You're supposed to be the cautionary tale. You keep calling me by my name like we're friends. She smiled grimly. Right now, we're allies. That's the best you'll get. He turned back to the monitors. Why would Wagner want to replace me? I've done everything to keep them out of direct control. Maybe that's the problem. Exactly, Evelyn replied. You took their weapons, their logistics, but not their chain of command. You're an inconvenience now. Traoré looked at her. Then why are you helping me? Evelyn paused. Then, because the agency wanted you gone too, and I disagreed. That stunned him into silence. You were my mission, she said quietly, but then I saw what you were trying to build here. Sovereignty, independence, no one in Langley liked that. He stared at her. You disobeyed a direct order. I burned an extraction window, tanked an entire op, That's why I planted false intel instead of stealing any. It was the only way to shift the timeline, and now they'll disavow you. They already have." The room fell into silence again as another explosion shook the bunker. Cracks spidered along the concrete ceiling. Fatoumata lowered her gun slowly. If this is true, then they've already compromised the National Guard. Evelyn nodded. Worse, they'll pin this on a regional faction, make it look internal, then install a puppet. Traoré gritted his teeth. "Not while I'm alive." Evelyn was already moving to the terminal. "There's one option, a dead switch." Fatoumata stepped forward. "What dead switch?" Evelyn typed rapidly. "Satellite uplink, one you've never used. It's French, built old NATO override systems buried in the early 2000s. The French abandoned it when they pulled out, but it still links to one of our backdoors." "You said you weren't here to gather intel," Traoré growled. "I'm not. I'm here to release it, all of it. Every intercepted Wagner communication, proof of infiltration, real-time ops logs. It's on the drive they found on me." Traoré stared at her, stunned. Evelyn pulled the drive from her pocket. "They missed a secondary chip buried under the board. This has everything." Fatoumata whispered. "That would trigger a geopolitical storm." "That's the point," Evelyn said. Another crash slammed against the door, this time followed by the hiss of an acetylene torch. "They're cutting through," said Fatoumata. Evelyn plugged the drive into the console. "I can flood the signal to 3 places, Langley, Algiers, and the O-Secure Cloud in Addis Ababa." "Do it," Traoré said. She typed a final sequence, the terminal responding with a low beep, transmitting. Lights blinked red, then green. One by one, the packets launched into cyberspace. But just as the final transmission hit 98%, the room's lights died. Power fully cut. The signal froze. "Damn it," Evelyn growled. "No," said Fatoumata, gesturing to a backup generator. "We reroute it. This way." Suddenly, gunfire erupted. Inside the command room, the colonel, previously subdued, had drawn a concealed pistol from his boot. A burst of shots echoed. Fatoumata screamed as the colonel fired. Devlin Dove tackled him to the floor. The gun skittered across concrete. Blood sprayed the wall. Fatoumata had been shot in the shoulder. Traoré moved with military precision, kicking the colonel's weapon away and pinning him with one boot. "You betrayed your own people," he hissed. "They were never my people." The colonel spat. "Africa belongs to those strong enough to take it." Evelyn's fingers were slick with blood as she helped Fatoumata into a corner. "We're running out of time." The reinforced doors were nearly cut through now, orange sparks lighting up the dark like fireflies. Traoré looked at Evelyn. "We get out through the old drainage tunnel. It connects to a fuel shaft and exits in the old Arsenal Tower." She nodded. "Then we ghost. But the drive, I'll take it," he said. "You get her to safety." Evelyn hesitated. "You won't make it through the main halls." Traoré looked her dead in the eye. "Then we change the halls." He threw open a maintenance hatch behind the server wall. "Go." Fatoumata, weak but conscious, leaned on Evelyn as they disappeared into the shaft. Traoré turned back, picked up the colonel's discarded rifle, and stared at the breaking door. And then the steel finally gave way. Blinding light, silhouettes in black tactical gear stormed in. Traoré raised his rifle. "Come and take it." He fired. The gunfire tore through the narrow command room like a thunderstorm in a tomb. Traoré moved with ruthless efficiency, each shot placed, each step deliberate, but they kept coming. Shadowed silhouettes wearing no insignia, their movements mechanical, voices silent. No commands, no calls for surrender, just the cold rhythm of military death squads. He emptied the rifle, ducked behind the comms terminal, reloaded with a fresh mag. One shot clipped the gas line. Flames erupted across the wall, temporarily blinding the invaders. It bought him seconds, not minutes, but seconds were enough. Slipping through the side corridor that had once been an unused evacuation duct, Traoré vanished into the smoke, rifle slung low. He knew these tunnels well. He'd ordered their construction. Built for insurgency, not defense. Built for a man who never wanted to end up cornered like a rat in his own stronghold. Evelyn and Fatimata were ahead of him. The drainage tunnel was foul, reeking of rusted chemicals and age-old fuel vapors. They moved fast. Fatimata's wound bled through her uniform, but she refused to slow. Evelyn kept her upright, but her own breath was tight, short. She'd lost too much blood earlier. Adrenaline masked it. For now, behind them, the thundering sounds of pursuit echoed through the shafts. Not boots, drones, four-legged crawling units, short-range reconnaissance bots reprogrammed for lethal action. They're coming, Evelyn hissed. Traoré's voice rang out from behind, "Keep going." When they reached the Arsenal Tower's old generator chamber, Evelyn stopped. "We split." Fatimata, panting, shook her head. "No, you're compromised," Evelyn said, pressing a palm to her own chest. "So am I. They have facial scans, voice profiles, we're dead assets. But you," she turned to Fatimata, "you're the only clean one left in this entire network. You make it to the surface, find Samba, tell him the drive got out. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice." From the tunnel behind them came the metallic click of servos, then a burst of bullets ricocheting off the chamber walls. Traoré opened fire again. "Move." Evelyn shoved Fatimata through a crawlspace hatch and sealed it behind her. "Go." The walls were pulsing now. Alarms reverberated from deeper parts of the facility. Then a voice, static-laced and unfamiliar, came through the enemy's internal comms, bleeding through Evelyn's stolen earpiece. "Confirm capture of the primary. Secure President Traoré for transport." She turned to him. "They're planning a live extraction." He looked at her. "Then we die here." "No." Evelyn said. "We were right the ending." There was silence between them. She looked down at her wrist. A slim, black band barely noticeable. An old CA dead. Switch protocol. Once activated, it would burn every biometric trace of the agent, emit a black site jamming signal, and if paired with a nuclear, coded hardline. "Send a final transmission directly to the Pentagon. I've got one last card," she said. "You'll die." Traoré said flatly, "I was never supposed to live through this." He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "I'll draw them off," he said. "Loop back, find the tower's lift shaft, get to the surface, and if they catch you, then at least they won't catch you." Without another word, they split. Evelyn toward the center core, Traoré back down into the labyrinth. She moved fast now, her skin burned, lungs raw from smoke and concrete dust. She reached the blast chamber, an old command fallback site designed during the French colonial era. Inside, a dusty command chair still sat beneath a corroded console. "Perfect." She connected her band to the exposed wiring, flicked a switch. The lights blinked once, then everything went dark, and then came the ping, "Signal found, secure line connected, transmission pending." Evelyn activated the kill code, "Package compromised, primary exfil dead, Traoré alive, enemy units deployed via rogue contractor command, launch protocol 0, repeat, launch protocol 0, authorizing release of Operation Black Veil." Another voice came through calm, sterile, and male. "Identity confirmed. Operation Black Veil authorized. Countdown initiated." She closed her eyes. Behind her, the door burst open. The figures didn't speak. They aimed their weapons, lasers trained on her skull. She smiled. "You're too late." "But then wait," said a voice. "Don't shoot." The agent stepped aside. A man walked in, American, civilian clothes, but everything about him screamed off. Book intelligence. He removed his sunglasses slowly. "Evelyn Moore," he said, "you've been a very bad girl." She raised an eyebrow. "Langley sent you." He smiled. "Oh, not quite. Langley cut me, just like they cut you, but some of us know how to make cuts. Bleed?" He held up a tablet. On it, a live stream. President Ibrahim Traoré, chained, gagged, on his knees in a blacked-out helicopter. "No," she whispered. The man grinned. "You played your hand, but we flipped the deck. While you were in the chamber sending up your last little scream, we had a second team close in. You couldn't have reached him." "Sure we could, because he let us. After all, you never told him what was really on that drive, did you?" Her blood froze. "You're lying." But the man smiled wider. "You told him it was proof of Wagner infiltration, leverage, but it was bait, real-time tracking, satellite signal pings disguised as packet bursts. You handed him to us, Evelyn, and he thanked you for it." Evelyn stepped back. "You're lying," she repeated, weaker this time. The man leaned forward. You were never a rogue. You were the control group, the perfect martyr. And when you die down here, after launching a heroic signal the world will see, you will become the story. I don't believe you." He pointed to the screen, "Then watch." They pressed play. On the video, Traoré stared into the camera, his voice muffled, his eyes blank, and then clearly he mouthed, "She betrayed me." Evelyn stumbled back, breath caught in her throat. No, he wouldn't. But the man just turned away. "Too late, Evelyn. You made a story, but we made a legend." He nodded once to his soldiers, and in that moment, Evelyn Moore realized something terrifying. She'd never been the author of her mission. Only its title. The rain fell in sheets across the jungle canopy, washing away the smoke of gunfire and the stench of oil and blood. Fatoumata crouched under a moss-covered ridge, her uniform soaked, the hard drive pressed against her chest like a sacred relic. She had escaped barely. The drone patrols had thinned out after the signal burst from the old arsenal tower. Something had changed in the enemy's behavior. It was as if they no longer needed to chase. She didn't know what Evelyn had done, only that the world above had shifted. Samba met her 2 kilometers north of the fallback border zone, disguised as a wandering herbalist with a convoy of donkeys. His eyes widened when he saw her. "You made it, not alone." She handed him the drive, his fingers trembled. "This, is it?" "Everything, but it's a trap too, a layered one." She said the payload is real, but coded. He nodded slowly. "We'll get it to the embassy." "No," Fatoumata said firmly. "We get it to the press. Let the people see first." Back in Ouagadougou, silence gripped the government offices. The military council had gone dark, their communications severed by what was now publicly being called a foreign intelligence cyberstrike. Ibrahim Traoré was gone, vanished in the dead of night. No press release. No funeral, only rumors and fear. But then, 3 days later, a video dropped. It wasn't through official channels. It wasn't from the government. It came from a hijacked French satellite, briefly overriding scheduled broadcast time across West Africa, Europe, and the United States. And what it showed was not Traoré, it was Evelyn Moore, sitting alone in the ruins of the blast chamber, her face pale, her breathing slow. Someone, likely the rogue agent who had betrayed her, had recorded it, expecting to air it as a psychological blow. But Evelyn had known. Somehow she had anticipated this. "By the time you watch this," she said in the video, "they will say I was the traitor, that I betrayed my mission, that I caused the capture of a president. But you must understand, none of that was by accident, and none of it was real." She raised the black band still clinging to her wrist. "This device doesn't just signal allies, it records every second, every heartbeat, every betrayal." She pressed a sequence on the band. A second screen split the video. Live feed, satellite data, voice logs, meeting recordings, files signed by Western defense contractors and rogue African juntas, documents proving the sale of biometric targeting software to mercenary groups, agreements approving the targeted destabilization of Burkina Faso to test next-gen conflict simulation AI in a live war zone, and there, clear as dawn, was the final clip, a meeting in Geneva. 2 men, the rogue CIA agent who had confronted Evelyn, and a man in a black suit with an American flag pin. They shook hands, a check was passed between them. Africa's always been the testing ground. One said, "Just don't let it hit the headlines." Evelyn's voice returned. "They turned my mission into a tomb. They erased Traoré, not because he was a warlord, but because he wasn't." Silence. Then the feed went black. In the days that followed, protests broke out in capital cities across the region. Internet was cut, borders sealed, but it was too late. The truth had surfaced, and with it, a hero born not from loyalty, but betrayal. Fatoumata stood in the crowd outside the American embassy in Accra, holding up a photo of Evelyn Moore, not smiling, not victorious, but real. And then, just as she lowered her sign, she saw a figure emerge from the crowd. A woman, short hair, limping, wearing an aid worker's coat and glasses. Their eyes met, and Evelyn Moore smiled. Fatoumata's breath caught. "You. How dead is a useful cover," Evelyn said softly, "and they burned the wrong body. You knew. They always wanted me to be the villain, so I let them kill her." She gestured to herself. "This one, she's nobody." Fatoumata stared, stunned. "Where is Traoré?" Evelyn looked away, her smile fading. "Gone. I couldn't reach him, but he bought us time. That's all we ever had." A black car pulled up at the curb. Evelyn stepped inside. Fatoumata called out, "Where will you go?" Evelyn paused. "Then, where the next fire is." And just like that, she disappeared into the noise, into the myth, into the war still yet to come. The crowd didn't notice her. They only remembered her name, not as traitor, but as spark, as the storm gathered once more and the real war began, not over oil or gold or land, but truth, and who gets to tell it.